Scott Robinson, Closing Industrial. We'll be going through the operation of the VG510SA saw and some of the features and benefits of the machine. Okay, we're going to turn on the disconnect. We have an indicator light that shows power is to the machine. We have a screen that appears with our different controls on it. When we power up the machine, we initially need to home the machine. In order to home the machine, start the hydraulics and hit the home button. So we have a power light indicator when we turn the disconnect on. We have the all-important emergency stop, and we have sawbow forward and sawbow backward push buttons to move the blade into the material manually. We have left vise clamp, left vise unclamp, right vise clamp, right vise unclamp, and these two buttons are for upper blade guide up, upper blade guide down. We have tilt to tilt the sawbow left and right. And we have blade speed for the variable speed on the saw blade. So to turn the blade on, the sawbow has to be in a full back position, and the vices have to be clamped in order for the blade to start. Once the blade starts, you can vary the speed with the potentiometer. Okay, the upper left button is hydraulic on. Hydraulic off below it. And we have blade start and blade stop. We have work light on, work light off. We have coolant on, coolant off. These two buttons here indicate which vise is active. You can have the left vise active, you can have the right vise active, or you can have both vices active. Whichever vise is active has to be clamped in order for the blade to start. So in other words, if I have this right vise active and I clamp the right vise, then the blade will start. If you notice, the coolant came on automatically when the blade started. If I unclamp the right vise now, the blade will not start. That's what these two buttons here do. This button here changes the end of cycle. One mode will finish the cut, then stop, open the vise, and shut the hydraulics off. The other mode, the saw bow will retract, the vise stays clamped, and then the saw blade stops when it hits the back limit switch. This button here, you can put 90-degree vise jaws on the saw, and this, when you put it in 90-degree vise jaw mode, which it is now, you cannot tilt the blade. If you change it back to 45, you can then tilt the blade. This button here changes from a snail to a rabbit, and that is for your tilt. When you tilt the saw, the snail will slow it down to a slow pace, where the rabbit will be fairly quick. It also affects the infeed when you're just moving the saw bow in and out. The snail will make it feed slower, the rabbit will make it feed faster. Below that, we have where we change the angle on the blade. We can put in 80 degrees, enter, hit the button, and you can notice on the display that it's going to 80 degrees. It goes past the location and then comes back and then clamps hydraulically. This is just a static display showing the current angle. We have 3 or 5 displays here for the left limit switch, the right limit switch, the front limit switch, the back limit switch, and the saw arm safety limit switch. When they turn red, they are activated. Right now, the saw arm safety is all the way up, and the saw bow is all the way back against the back limit switch. Over here we have system parameters settings that take a password that'll set things such as if you don't want the coolant to come on when the saw blade starts, you can change the setting in it. But that is all system parameters that typically people don't need to get into. The down arrow below that just pulls up another screen that shows your blade angle and your blade speed in feet per minute, and it also has blade life hour meter, so you can reset that back to 0 when you change the blade. Next button down has some indicators of different types of materials. When you hit that button, it brings up a screen showing blade speed and square inches per minute as far as feed. on all kinds of different materials, from Inconel to soft steel to aluminum. The next button down is a monitor for the PLC inputs and outputs, and it just gives you a visual idea of what limit switches are being made, what solenoids are being triggered, that type of thing. So it's just a display of the inputs and outputs of the programmable logic controller. Next button down shows your alarms, your past alarms. So if you need to look back at what the last alarm was, you can do that. Down at the bottom, it shows blade speed. Over here is your home button that we showed earlier. And across the bottom, you can see some error messages scrolling across saying that my left vise is not set and that type of thing. If you don't have your vices clamped and you try to start the blade, an error message will start coming across the bottom of the screen telling you why your blade didn't start. So over here we have our feed pressure gauge and our feed pressure adjustment knob, our vice pressure and our vice pressure adjustment knob. If we need to lower the feed pressure for the different material, it's a matter of turning the adjustment up and down, and vice pressure the same if you're doing thin wall tubing or some other material that you're afraid you might crush. You can adjust the or the vice pressure down so that you don't crush the material. So we're going to start the blade and simulate making a cut. If I hit the inward button, it starts feeding the blade into the material, and I can adjust the feed speed with this knob here. Once the blade clears the rear vise, the back vise, it'll retract. And shut the blade off. Capacity of the machine is fairly large. There's a pin that goes into a rack off of the hydraulic cylinder that you can release, pull back the vise, put larger material in, set the vise, and clamp very easily. We also have roller tables that are available to go off the sides for feeding the machine and for off feed. The tilt range for the saw is from 30 to 150 degrees. So you can go 60 degrees left and right of center. You can quickly set the angle for, this one's for 150 degrees. Or you can go back the other direction to 30 degrees. So this lever here is for your blade tension. Pulling it to the right loosens the blade tension so you can change the blade. Pushing it to the left is full tension on the blade. Down here we also have a hydraulic clamp that locks the saw blade angle in place mechanically so it cannot move during the cut for real accurate cuts. So this is the electrical cabinet for the VG510SA. We have the inverter for the variable blade speed. We have PLC for controlling the saw motions, some control relays, and as you can see, it's really well engineered and cleanly put together. So as expected, we have a very robust band wheel on the drive wheel as well as this idle wheel. The idle wheel is tensioned hydraulically for blade tension, and it also has a proximity sensor sensing the spokes. If the idle wheel stops for a period of time, then the saw will shut down due to a broken blade. So on both sides of the machine, we have full access panels that are electrically interlocked for easy access to clean the chips out of the machine.